with that asset. Correct? So that is what it is. I'll take you to the worksheet right away. So that's really the crux of what I want to be able to say. Using leverage, I'll come to a little later. I mean, we lose time talking about it now. I'll take you to a worksheet. Okay, this is like a lot of numbers. It is good to reconstruct it, but in the interest of time, what happened to this one? Look at this one. Financial planning will come to a knot if you don't have it somewhere in terms of where the numbers are. I will make this worksheet available to Professor Pattabhiraman, who will, in reality, you have to calculate the next year's income based on what you actually received. You start off your life by making a projection, but every year in your worksheet, you should put in what your annual income was and have a column next to it which tracks what is the rate at which your income is growing, right? Other than, we all feel very happy after the performance evaluation, correct? Until we hear what the neighbor got as a rise. Right? That doesn't matter. What is important is that the raise that we get should have covered inflation as it affects us, as it affects our mandatory expense. Is that right? So therefore, you put your income, I have put in a 10% increase, so the 6 lakh has grown to 6 lakh 60 and so on and so forth. As you can see, I have kept that 10% as a constant and I have assumed a 10%. We can modify this. We can change everything in this worksheet once I have shown you what I have set up here. Okay? Now, when I say mandatory expense, what do you think is the mandatory expense in a household? You don't have to keep, though there were days when people used to keep accounts. How many here keep accounts? Long live South India. My parents had this Venkatachalamani Dappi thing on it. So every day in the night they will make the entire thing tally, count all the money, and then it will be put in that. At the beginning of the month, in different covers my mother will put money. This is milk, this is vegetables, So depending on the amount that was remaining there, the expenses will be managed, right? But those were households which didn't have surplus. See, if you're a household which didn't have surplus. So the first condition is that your mandatory expense should be well within your income. We lived in a household where the mandatory expenses will exceed the income if we did not take care, so you had to budget. So a sign of prosperity is this, that we still have some balances in the savings account before the next salary comes in, right? So we've all stopped keeping accounts. Why should we care about, so there is always a surplus. Should we still care about the mandatory expense? Why do you think?
Yes.
Why?
It has to be limited.
It increases your savings.
Sometimes we get confused with discretionary and mandatory.
Correct. Mandatory is you have to, either the banker will come and take away your home if you don't pay, taxman will put you behind bars if you didn't pay, correct? Insurance policy will lapse if you didn't pay, right? Or you vacate the house, your family will starve, your child will be uneducated. These are mandatory expenses that you have to incur them. Is that right? As I was telling you, lifestyle can creep in. What can happen is that, I have friends who tell me that, I have never taken the public transport. That's like snobbery, right? But mandatory expense for them. To have 3 drivers on call, each one reporting for 8 hours a day, is mandatory expense for some people. After all, Mr. Birla is not planning for his child's education. No? He has a huge surplus. So, the Birla household can have, a long list of mandatory expenses. So, as surpluses go up, the mandatory expenses become higher. There are people who will insist that fresh flowers are brought into the house every day. Mandatory expense for them. Because there's a large surplus. Is that right? So, that's what is personal about personal finance. It's really up to us to decide what are the mandatory expenses. I will add whatever you want here, but why you need mandatory expense, that question remains unanswered. It's not control. It's not we have to spend less. It's not about any of that. Why do you need to know what's the mandatory expense? You don't have to do budget, but you should know what is the mandatory expense without which the household will not run.
So that you know how much you have for your discretionary.
Hey, everybody knows that we have enough, right? You need the mandatory expense to know two things. One, the inflation rate that applies to various components of your mandatory expense may not be the same. Correct? If you had, for example, an education expense which is running at 12 or 14%, correct? And you have a salary which is running at 10, and you have children who are growing up who are going to go to college, you're going to still have a problem, right? Your asset accumulation will have to be more aggressive because you have mandatory expenses which are running ahead of inflation. Not all of them. All of them run ahead of inflation, you have a problem. Correct? But if some of them are running ahead of inflation, you have a problem. I'll just show you the mandatory expenses. You can tell me, yeah? Okay. I'm saying rent. I'm saying I've put all this as monthly numbers. I'll change these. There is food, there is utilities. Remember, our man is earning only 50,000 rupees. Yeah, I put some fees, I put some insurance, and I have put some tax. Alright? Now, the reason we all want to save tax is what? Look at everything else. How is it all growing? With the rate of inflation. Is that correct? What is the right way, what is the appropriate way to estimate tax liabilities? And how much do you think our tax liability will increase? Slab, no? It will run with the income. We dislike it for that reason. It will run with the income, and higher the income, higher the percentage. Is that right? But it's a mandatory cut that we'll have to do. So, it will run the tax liability. It's a slab, but then for somebody who's earning 25 lakhs, the 2.5 lakh exemption limit doesn't make any big difference to the effective rate of tax. Is that right? So your tax liability will start running higher, right? That's something which you will have to plug in. So if you plug in all of these in terms of what is the deduction that you have for tax every month, how much is it for fees, insurance, extra utilities, all of this, and add all of it. So I have put some numbers. If you want, we can change these numbers. But essentially, what I have done here is add all of these. I only put these. You can add whatever you want. I have added, can you see that? I have added Q3 to V3. I have added all those heads and I have multiplied it by 12. I put that numbers as monthly numbers just for the sake of familiarity. That's all. I am not kind of rounded. It's quite possible for me to have multiplied them. I just did not do it. Because the classes tend to generally modify that. They will say, madam, make this much, make this that much. But whatever you try to make, what is the only rule that we have to remember? The mandatory expense will have to be smaller than this. And what is the rate at which the mandatory expense is growing? It will never grow at the rate of inflation. So you will require to be prepared. Those are tactics. You will be required to prepare for those times when you have tuition, coaching, and other classes and other things, which all become large and start becoming a big part of. So you will know, you will have to know, I will just unhide the sheets that I have hidden. You will have to know how much is mandatory as a percentage of your income, correct? And when you make decisions, for example, there are decisions that are taken where in a family the spouse decides to quit the job when the child comes along. What is the impact on the income of the family? Income drops, expenses go up, right? So when are you fine with this? Children are very important now. There are better things in life than money. I will tell you the most important thing in life is money. I have no qualms in telling you this. Because with money you can do everything else. So those who say, and I am not saying this because I think, because I teach personal finance. I am telling this out of the experience of seeing people. The kind of people who will say no to money are so few. I have a dear friend who is an IAS officer who remains unmarried, who pays all his salary towards fees of children who he has adopted. He lives in the government bungalow, he spends nothing. His mandatory expense is 1,000 rupees. He never eats out. He buys only 2 pairs of clothes in the whole year, 2 pairs. That is, if he says money is not important, I like it. For you and me, it just sounds very nice, right? Very noble and very good. Oh, money is not at all important in life, right? The truth really is that money is important only because it enables you to make other decisions that you want to make. So when you take a decision in which you are saying income of one spouse is not required, what is it that you have to do from a money angle? What should you ensure? There are enough assets, huh? And those cuts in expenses that we are thinking of are well agreed between both. That these are things that we will not do, correct? These are the kind of things that we will not do, and that's the part of the tactics. That, oh, we will not take this vacation. You won't rub it in. But you broadly know that, look, we took this decision, right? That you will not work and you will take care of the child. So, unless we build assets, these are the kind of things that we cannot do. We make these compromises all our lives. Except that, we don't make it consciously, we make it from a position of martyrdom. All I am urging you today is make it from a position of control. Make it from a position of control, right? Say that this is the amount of assets that I will build, this is the amount of income these assets will generate. That will make sure that this decision does not pitch us in a way that is going to make us emotionally feel drained. Is that right? Then our decisions are going to be better. So, our mandatory expense is important from that point of view. What else is important in the mandatory expense? I was talking about borrowing, right? What happens when you borrow? Okay, then?
Income goes down. That would become a mandatory income.
Correct. Then? It grows up with inflation, is it?
No.
That's why you should borrow. Because what happens? You're borrowing if you manage, which is why if you manage to make a borrowing with an EMI which doesn't come and hurt your saving ability, it actually helps you create assets. Is that right? As long as these assets, borrowing for buying a car is expense actually, because it's a depreciating asset. But if you borrow to buy a house, right, and there is some tax concession also thrown in, correct? Then what is it that happens? It becomes a mandatory expense, but this mandatory expense is a fixed amount. It does not move up with inflation, which means what? It will make an impact on your saving in absolute terms. It won't make it in a variable term, is that right? So that is a strategic decision which you have to take. How much of my mandatory expense can remain stable and what percentage of it will keep increasing, right? So three things to remember: a part of it which remains stable, a part of it which keeps increasing at the rate of inflation, a part of it which keeps increasing at a rate which is higher than inflation. Is that right? If more and more components increase at rates higher than inflation, our saving abilities will keep dropping, right? And then you have, I don't know what is going on. All right. It shouldn't bother. Okay. Now, your discretionary. What will you do with discretionary expense? By now you know this. You are asking for top tricks, right? Keep discretionary at percentage. Make it a percentage of your income. If you make it a percentage of your income, then it remains stable. It doesn't go out of hand. It leaves you with a surplus. Here I have kept it at 20. You can modify it to whichever one you want. And therefore, we have arrived at some savings. Is that right? So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just show you what I'm going to do with this. How do you think this guy's life will be? How much of assets you believe he will build? Good, bad, ugly?
Good.
Good. Give me a number. So our man begins with a 50,000 salary. This is how his situation is. And he makes investment decisions. Many times when I do personal finance class, people are always asking questions about investments because they believe that investment decisions are extremely critical. They are, but they have to be put in auto mode. The moment you make your investment decision into a decision which is a considered decision, every time you have surplus, I will give it to you in writing, your money will be in savings account. You need to make this decision once a year. Once a year. in the month of April preferably, beginning of the year, financial year. Yeah, make the decision once a year in terms of saying this year, this percentage of my income I'm going to save, this is how my expense look like, this is how my increments look like, and this is what I'm going to invest my money in. And every time you find money lying in the savings bank account, please push that money in, right? Even if you're not able to do it at any other point in time, the one simple thing which I do is I look at the balance in my savings bank account a day before my salary is credited. Whatever balance is there is pushed into my investment portfolio if a sizable amount is lying there, because I want it to work. I don't want it to be there, right? The funds that I'm going to invest in I already know, so I push that money there. So what I'm doing here is I have put, he saved 1,20,000 in a year. I have put 40,000. I have made no asset allocation. No? We'll make changes and we'll see how it works. What have I done? I have done it equally. 40%, 30% of the 1/3 of that money is in cash, which means it's in the savings bank, it is in liquid funds, or it's in cash. 1/3 of the money is in income assets, PPF, NSE, savings bank, debt fund. They are all names. Any asset which gives you a income is an income asset. It can be called PPF or NSE or anything else it wants. Ultimately, it's a debt, right? It's a borrowing by somebody else who will pay you interest. That's all it is. It can have whatever name it wants. What are growth assets? They will provide no regular income, but they have the ability to appreciate in value. Gold, real estate, equity, they are all growth assets. They will provide you an income. Gold provides no income. But real estate and equity will provide you some income, but which is how much? 1 or 2%. Dividend yield will be 1 or 2%. Rental yield will again be 1 or 2%. Is that right? So they provide very small incomes, but they can show appreciation. So the asset is either an income asset or it is a growth asset. Everything else, which is a combination of all of this, is market income. You have to only ask this: where is the money? Is the person who has taken my money, is he my borrower? If yes, will he pay me interest? Is he using this money for his business? Then will his business grow? Well, will this money appreciate? These are the only two decisions for us to take. I have divided it equally. 40%, 40,000 in cash, 40,000 in income, 40,000 in. Now, I have made these return assumptions. I will change these as I go along. I have said 4% is the return on the cash, 7% is the return on the income asset, and 11% is the return on equity. We can change this. As I told you, this is a worksheet I have set up. Based on whatever you want now, we can modify this. So, how do you think this guy's finance life will look like? Can you give me some number of what his assets will look like?
After certain years.
Yes. Give me some number.
For how many years?
After 10 years.
Give me any year, any amount, sir. Give me some number. I want to hear some numbers.
10 years, 80 lakhs.
35 years, 4 crore.
Oh, that number is already there.
35 years, 4 crore.
35 years, 4 crore. Okay, keep giving. No harm in giving me numbers. Yeah. Tell me something.
20 crore.
Okay. Chumma. Yaar said 20 crore.
50 years, 20 crore.
Okay. So, our guy's investment, now if you can see here, the total investment value is this, and every year it keeps going up, you know. That is
How many years?
35 years of working, 15 crores is the amount. Requires nothing. So what skill do you think? At this point you can go home. Requires nothing. So when we say strategic personal finance, what we're trying to say is you have to ensure that there is a surplus and that surplus is invested. So I was telling Professor Pattabhiram that only, there is no new wisdom when it comes to investing. What has to be known is already known, right? But what is not known is the simple fact that small amounts of money will become large over a period of time. Is that right? Now, our actual lives are about what, and how does this actually become so big? I mean, these are, you can set up this worksheet and do it for yourself. What is it that happens? You can see this. You can see the last few years. Yeah? So what is this? Can you